In this video, we will demonstrate how to create a new consumer account for a consumer on Virginia's insurance marketplace. This applies to any new client that you are supporting who does not have a Virginia's insurance marketplace account already. First, log into your Virginia's insurance marketplace account using the username and password provided to you. After you've done so, on the dashboard, look for the Search Existing Consumers link located in the Quick Links on the left-hand side of the screen and select that option. In order to ensure that you are not creating a duplicate account, we will first search to ensure that the new consumer you are assisting does not have an account on Virginia's insurance marketplace. To do so, we will enter their first and last name, their date of birth. We'll select the document type that they've provided to us as identification, the method that we've collected that information, whether in person or over the phone, and continue. We're then going to search the database to ensure that the consumer does not have an account. We can do so by entering their social security number or by searching by name. In this case, we'll search by name, select the search button, and no match has been found. That means we can go ahead and start a new application. To do so, we're going to again enter the client's name, date of birth, now their zip code, their phone number, and their address, email address, and continue. We can now proceed to the consumer's new account that we have just created on Virginia's insurance marketplace. By selecting Individual View, we will go to the individual portal for the consumer. Through this portal, we'll be able to enroll on behalf of the client. Keep in mind that you will not be able to create new consumers until after open enrollment starts on November 1st. From the consumer's dashboard, we will select Start New Application. Before we begin, we're presented with the privacy statement from the exchange. We can also click to view the privacy policy, review the consent, agree to it, and continue. Before starting, we'll want to collect the names, addresses, social security numbers, birth dates, and document numbers for anyone with eligible immigration status. Having this information available eases the entry of the application. We will then continue. All information that we've previously submitted is carried forward in the application. We will enter now the address for the consumer, their zip code, at which point the county populates, and the city. You can enter this information in any order you prefer. Virginia's insurance marketplace will check to see if the address exists in the United States Postal Service database. If it doesn't, you'll be prompted to select from another address, or you can go ahead and continue with the address that you entered. If the consumer's mailing address is the same as their home address, we can check the box. Alternatively, if they have a different mailing address, we can enter the mailing address in the fields below. The consumer can consent, and you can select on their behalf, with their consent, to receive text messages from Virginia's insurance marketplace. These text messages include alerts when secure notices are placed in the consumer's secure inbox on the Virginia's insurance marketplace website. You can also enter the consumer's home phone number and emergency contact information. In addition, you can select the client's preferred spoken language, English or Spanish, preferred written language, English or Spanish, and preferred method of communication for receiving notices, whether that's electronic notices via email and or text message, or postal mail, and continue. Since you as an agent are filling out this application on behalf of your client, you will select the second option, I'm being assisted by a certified professional, and continue. Consumers have the option of applying for coverage on Virginia's insurance marketplace and receiving financial assistance or paying full price for their coverage. If we want to check to see what financial assistance is available to the consumer, we select yes and continue. Now we add members to the household. First, we need to indicate if our primary applicant is seeking coverage. Yes, they are. If we need to add additional persons to the household, we can simply click the Add Person button, enter the additional person's first and last name, their date of birth, if we need to continue adding people to the household, we can do so again by simply clicking the Add Person button until we've added all of the members in the household, and then continue. We also need to indicate if each member is or is not seeking coverage. If we don't click that, we'll receive the message that you just saw. Next, we need to tell Virginia's insurance marketplace the relationship between the members in the household. In this case, there are only two members, and they are spouses, so we will select the spouse relationship in the dropdown, that Todd is Jane's spouse, and continue. If any members of the household live at an address other than the primary residence, we'll indicate that by selecting the relevant member and adding their address. In this case, the members all live at the same address, so we will select none of the above and continue. At the end of each application section, there is a summary page. On the summary page, you can select the Edit button next to each question that you've provided an answer to return to the relevant page and update the question. Once we're happy with our answers, we can continue. In the next section, we're going to ask for more details about each person in the household. First, their sex, and then their social security number. Social security number is not a required field, but if we don't provide social security number, we will need to provide additional documentation at the end of the application. In this case, we're not going to provide a social security number, and continue. Next, we need to inform Virginia's insurance marketplace of the immigration status for each member in the household. First, are they a U.S. citizen? And if so, are they a naturalized or derived citizen? If the answer to that is no, we would simply save and continue. Next, we have optional ethnicity and race questions. We know these are optional because there's no asterisk next to these questions. We're going to go ahead and skip these demographic questions for now and continue. And we've answered the questions for the primary applicant. Next, we're going to answer the same questions for the second applicant on the application. Again, we'll enter their sex, social security number, either will or won't enter that, and save and continue. In this case, we will select that Jane is not a US citizen, that she does have eligible immigration status. Once we've selected eligible immigration status, we see that we can select a document type. This is also not a required field. If Jane does not have one of the listed document types, we can select none of these and continue. If there is a relevant immigration status uh, document type that the applicant has, you will select the relevant document. For example, I-551 stamp, enter the alien number and passport number, the country of issuance and the date, and proceed. The next optional question is whether the applicant has any of the additional documents. If they don't, we can select none of these. And finally, the third optional immigration question is whether the applicant's primary residence has been in the US since 1996. This is a yes or no question, and we'll save and continue. Next, we are asked the ethnicity and race questions for the second applicant, which again we will skip and continue. At this point, we have an option to add or update information, and again, we can add additional members of the household. It's important that the information on the application is complete and that we capture information for everyone living with the applicant, even if they're not applying for health coverage. In this case, we're happy with what we've entered, and so we're going to say no. Next, we're going to indicate who in the household plans to file a federal income tax return in 2023. The options here are each of the household members or none of the above. We will select that the primary applicant is going to submit a tax return for 2023. We will then select that they plan to file a joint income tax return. Of course, you can optionally select no if that's the case based on the client's situation. And finally, we indicate which of the household members should be listed as the primary applicant and primary tax filer. And continue. If any members of the household are American Indian or Alaska Native, you can indicate that by checking the box next to their name. If they belong to a federally recognized tribe, you will again select their name, select the state in which they belong to the federally recognized tribe, and then select the relevant federally recognized tribe in that state. In this case, we will say none of the above and continue. If any members of the household were found not eligible for Medicaid or FAMUS in Virginia in the past 90 days, we will indicate that by selecting the individual's name and entering the month, day, and year of their Medicaid or FAMUS denial. In this case, we will say none of the above and continue. If any persons on the application were pregnant or are pregnant in the last 12 months, we can indicate that by selecting their name, indicating whether they are or are not still pregnant. If they are still pregnant, indicating how many babies are expected and the due date. If they are not still pregnant, we will indicate the date, month, day, and year that the pregnancy ended and continue. In this case, we will say none of the above and continue. If any members in the household have a physical or mental health condition that limits their ability to work, attend school, or take care of their daily needs, we would indicate that by selecting their name. In this case, we're going to select none of the above. Similarly, if anyone needs help with daily living activities, we would select their name. Again, in this case, we'll select none of the above and continue. If any of the individuals in the application, based on their age, were ever in foster care, we would indicate that by selecting their name, the state in which they were in the foster care system, whether they were receiving health care through Virginia Medicaid, and the age when the individual left the foster care system. In this case, we'll indicate none of the above and continue. We've now reached the end of the section, so once again, we have a summary page where we can review and confirm the answers that we've provided to each question. In this case, we've reviewed and we're happy with our answers, so we'll continue. Our next series of questions are related to income for each member of the household. Here we may need their pay stubs, W-2 forms, and other information about their income. We can see our progress in the application on the left-hand side of the page. So we're more than halfway done. We'll hit continue. People can earn income in many ways, so we're going to go ahead and collect the appropriate income for our household members. In this case, Todd does currently earn income. So once we answer yes, we can select add an income source. And from the drop-down, we have a range of options to select. In this case, we'll say that Todd is employed through and receives job-based income from his employer, whose name we'll list. We'll list his income, which is $50,000 annually. As you can see in the drop-down, we can select from hourly, daily, weekly, bi-weekly, twice monthly, monthly, yearly, and one-time only frequencies, and whether Todd expects to receive this income for the whole year, yes or no. In this case, yes, he does, and our income is updated. If Todd receives other income, we would simply hit Add Income Source, select that income, type, select the amount, and save. And the additional income is added to Todd's application. If we've entered that information in error, we can either edit it or simply remove it. And continue. Next, we need to enter any deductions for Todd that could lower the cost of his health insurance. If Todd does have deductions, we'll select yes and add the deduction source. The eligible deduction types are listed. In this case, Todd has no deductions, and we're going to continue. If Todd's income as projected for the year is the calculated amount, in this case $50,000 after deductions, we will simply select yes. If Todd believes he will earn a different income, we can select no and state how much Todd expects to earn in the year after deductions, and then continue. In this case, we agree that Todd will earn $50,000 from his job and continue. We now have a income summary for Todd that shows both his total income expressed in annual dollars and a current monthly income amount. And we'll continue. Next, we're going to answer the same questions for Jane. In this example, Jane does not earn any income, so we will continue. Jane does, however, have student loan interest as a deduction, so we'll enter that, the frequency, and whether or not Jane expects to receive the deduction for the whole year. In this case, she does. We'll save that and continue. Again, we're going to agree to Jane's expected income for the year and continue. For Jane's income summary, because we've entered no income, we have $0, but we do have the deduction that we entered. We've now reached the end of the income section, so we have the summary page where we can review and edit if necessary. And we've realized that Jane, in fact, does earn income. So we can come back, add that income source for Jane, enter the amount, the frequency, and whether or not she expects to earn that for the whole year. And continue. The deduction that we previously entered is still there, and we've now calculated that Jane's income will be $26,400 after deductions, because deductions have been taken into account. And continue. We can now review the summary again. We're happy with what we've entered for Jane, and we're happy with what we've entered for the entire household, so we'll continue. Our final section captures other additional information for the household. First, we're going to ask these questions for Todd and then for Jane. If Todd is currently enrolled in other health coverage that will extend beyond 60 days from today, we can select yes and select the appropriate coverage that he receives. In this case, he does not, so we'll continue. Next, we'll indicate whether Todd has received advanced premium tax credits in the past and whether he's filed a tax return and reconciled those advanced premium tax credits. In this case, Todd is brand new to the exchange and he's never received APTC, so we'll click no and continue. If Todd is offered health coverage through a job, we will answer yes, select his employer that offers coverage, and enter information about that employer. Additionally, we'll calculate whether the coverage that is offered meets the minimum value standard, which we can learn more about by clicking the Learn More button. In this case, Todd is not offered coverage through a job, so we'll click no and continue. Next, we're going to ask the same questions about Jane. First, is she enrolled in coverage that will extend beyond 60 days from today? The answer will be no, so we will continue. Jane also is not offered employer-sponsored coverage. And we've now reached the summary page for this section. We can review our answers. We're happy with the answers, and we'll continue. We've now reached the final stages of the application, and we're going to review the application itself. For our final review, we can review the entire application that we've submitted on the household's behalf. We can return by using the edit button to each section if we need to update any answers. For income, for additional information. In this case, we're happy with our answers, so we're going to continue. Before we submit the application, we do need to verify electronically the identity of our applicant. So we'll go ahead and click Get Started. We'll enter Todd's address and continue. In the production Virginia's Insurance Marketplace system, you will then be presented with a series of questions from Experian that you will need to work with the client to get the answers to, and then you can answer on their behalf. In our test system, we will proceed with manual verification, where we will upload a document which will be verified by Virginia's Insurance Marketplace's Consumer Assistance Center. Once that document's been verified, the application can continue. So we will review the application. And continue. Again, we've reviewed all of the information in the application. We're happy with our submissions. Our final page is our attestations page. Here, first, we're going to indicate whether or not anyone in the household is currently incarcerated in prison or jail. In this case, no. Our next attestation is an attestation to allow Virginia's Insurance Marketplace to use data sources to check the applicant's income. They can agree or disagree to consenting to this renewals check. If they agree, or if you agree on their behalf, then Virginia's Insurance Marketplace will check for 5 years during renewal period. If you disagree on their behalf, you can indicate whether the client does not grant Virginia's Insurance Marketplace consent to use income data at renewal, whether they grant it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. If consent is not granted, the consumer will not be assessed for financial assistance. Next, we're going to indicate whether that we understand that if any applicant is found to have other qualifying health coverage, that certain conditions may apply. Next, consent information may be shared with the Virginia Department of Social Services for the purpose of making a Medicaid or family access to medical insurance security eligibility determination. If a child on the application has a parent living outside of the home, we have a consent for that. The next consent is that attestation is that we understand that the applicant has 30 days to notify Virginia's Insurance Marketplace of any change in information. And finally, by entering the client's name in the box below and signing electronically on their behalf, we're signing this application under penalty of perjury. We'll sign the application and submit it. At this point, Virginia's Insurance Marketplace will determine the applicant's eligibility. That process is now complete. First, we're provided with a summary of what all of the members in the household are eligible for. In this case, qualified health and dental plans. We also see what each individual member of the household is eligible for. In the Action Needed section, we'll see any documents that are required to be submitted by the client or by you on their behalf, and that they have 90 days to submit that information to confirm their eligibility. We can see specifically what documents may be required by clicking the Documents Required button. When Virginia's insurance marketplace platform is not able to verify information provided in the application with data available from state and federal data sources, a data matching issue is created. You can resolve these issues by expanding the area by clicking the plus sign for the issue created and uploading documents as evidence. In this case, the household has unverified income that requires verification. We can provide a pay stub. We can upload a document. And we can indicate how much that pay stub indicates. In this case, we will attest to the entire stated income amount of $76,400 and add that document. The system will calculate whether there's any remaining income that is not yet to be documented. If so, you can add additional documents until all income is documented and submit. Those documents are then transmitted automatically to Virginia's Insurance Marketplace's Consumer Assistance Center, where Consumer Assistance Center specialists review the documentation, and if the documentation meets the requirements, the data matching issue will be resolved. We can now return to the dashboard and see that the application is complete. That concludes this video on how to submit a new application for a new client on Virginia's insurance marketplace. To return to your account, you simply click My Account, and Home, and you return to your agent dashboard. Thank you.